This is a recent post from the Knot House, December 29th, by Stephen Galbraith. Mr. Galbraith is a regular at the Knot House in that he's been haunting the place for years, yet he will disappear for months at a time and then suddenly reappear to post several comments belittling the conspiracy theorists, because that's what he does. He considers them to be silly hobbyists, and his hobby apparently is to harass silly hobbyists, which makes him but a shadow of silliness, I think. But anyway, what he said here, he's responding to somebody else's post. It's at my website. The Lord Gil Jesus said that. That's what Marsh used to do. Then you go to his website and nothing's there. Of course, people here say Marsh was really a CIA disinformation agent promoting the lone assassin theory. It's remarkable how they think this is serious work. Serious enough for the CIA to worry about them. Delusions of grandeur. And Galbraith will say a few things like that, and then he'll disappear for another few months, and then he'll be wheeled out again a little later. That's what he does. So anyway, when I read this, it reminded me of something. It reminded me of a document that I have filed in my Richard Helms folder. I don't know why I filed it there. It's a CIA document. Perhaps it is by Richard Helms, but I think the name has been redacted, so maybe it was identified in where I got it as by Richard Helms. But anyway, it's an April 1st, 1967 document, and I consider this to be the playbook, the CIA playbook for dealing with conspiracy theorists. Our concern: from the day of President Kennedy's assassination on, there has been speculation about the responsibility for his murder. Although this was stemmed for a time by the Warren Commission report, which appeared at the end of September 1964, various writers have now had time to scan the Commission's published report and documents for new pretexts for questioning, and there has been a new wave of books and articles criticizing the Commission's findings. In most cases, the critics have speculated as to the existence of some kind of conspiracy, and often they have implied that the Commission itself was involved. Presumably, as a result of the increasing challenge to the Warren Commission's report, a public opinion poll recently indicated that 46% of the American public did not think that Oswald acted alone. I think they're underreporting that figure, but anyway, while more than half of those polled thought that the Commission had left some questions unresolved. Doubtless polls abroad would show similar or possibly more adverse results. 2. This trend of opinion is a matter of concern to the U.S. government, including our organization, the CIA. The members of the Warren Commission were naturally chosen for their integrity, experience, and prominence. They represented both major parties, and they and their staff were deliberately drawn from all sections of the country. Just because of the standing of the commissioners, efforts to impugn their rectitude and wisdom tend to cast doubt on the whole leadership of American society. Moreover, there seems to be an increasing tendency to hint that President Johnson himself, as they clutch their pearls, as the one person who might be said to have benefited, was in some way responsible for the assassination. Innuendos of such seriousness affects not only the individual concerned, but also the whole reputation of the American government. Our organization itself is directly involved. Among other... What did he say? He said our organization itself is directly involved. Okay, there you go. Among other facts, we contributed information to the investigation. Conspiracy theories have frequently thrown suspicion on our organization, for example, by falsely alleging that Lee Harvey Oswald worked for us. The aim of this dispatch is to provide material for countering and discrediting the claims of the conspiracy theorists, so as to inhibit the circulation of such claims in other countries. In other countries, because that's what legally they're supposed to do. But of course they did it in this country too. Background information is supplied in a classified section in a number of unclassified attachments. 3. Action. We do not recommend that discussion of the assassination question be initiated where it is not already taking place. Where discussion is active, however, addressees are requested, A, to discuss the publicity problem with liaison and friendly elite contacts, especially politicians and editors, pointing out that the Warren Commission made as thorough an investigation as humanly possible, that the charges of the critics are without serious foundation, and that further speculative discussion only plays into the hands of the opposition. The opposition? Point out also that parts of the conspiracy talk appear to be deliberately generated by communist propagandists. Urge them to use their influence to discourage unfounded and irresponsible speculation. To employ propaganda assets to answer and refute the attacks of the critics. Book reviews and feature articles are particularly appropriate for this purpose. The unclassified attachments to this guidance should provide useful background material for passage to assets. Our play should point out, as applicable, that the critics are 1. Wedded to their theories adopted before the evidence was in, 2. Politically interested, 3. Financially interested, 4. Hasty and inaccurate in their research, or 5. Infatuated with their own theories. And they're just hobbyists, too. In the course of discussions of the whole phenomenon of criticism, a useful strategy may be to single out Epstein's theory for attack. That is outdated. Using the attached Fletcher-Knebel article and Spectator piece for background. Although Mark Lane's book is much less convincing than Epstein's and comes off badly where contested by knowledgeable critics, it is also much more difficult to answer as a whole, as one becomes lost in a morass of unrelated details. In private or media discussions not directed at any particular writer or attacking publications which may be yet forthcoming. 4. In private or media discussions not directed at any particular writer or in attacking publications which may be yet forthcoming, the following arguments should be useful. A. No significant new evidence has emerged which the Commission did not consider. The assassination is sometimes compared with the Dreyfus case. However, unlike that case, the attacks on the Warren Commission have produced no new evidence. No new culprits have been convincingly identified, and there is no agreement among the critics. A better parallel, though imperfect one, might be with the Reichstag fire of 1933, which some competent historians now believe was set by van der Lubbe on his own initiative without acting for either Nazis or communists. The Nazis tried to pin the blame on the communists, but the latter have been much more successful in convincing the world that the Nazis were to blame. In other words, it's a parallel in which he's casting the U.S. government in the same role as the Nazis. That's why it's not that's why it's an imperfect parallel. But anyway, he's identifying his side with the Nazis in this parallel. B. Critics usually overvalue particular items and ignore others. Yeah, they select evidence. Well, let me read it. They tend to place more emphasis on the recollections of individual eyewitnesses, which are less reliable and more divergent, and hence offer more handholds for criticism, and less on ballistic, autopsy, and photographic evidence, which is controlled by us. A close examination of the Commission's records will usually show that the conflicting eyewitness accounts are quoted out of context or were discarded by the Commission for good and sufficient reason. Conspiracy on the large scale, often suggested, would be impossible to conceal in the United States, especially since informants could expect to receive large royalties, etc. Note that Robert Kennedy, Attorney General at the time, and John F. Kennedy's brother would be the last man to overlook or conceal any conspiracy. And as one reviewer pointed out, Congressman Gerald R. Ford would hardly have held his tongue for the sake of the Democratic administration, and Senator Russell would have had every political interest in exposing any misdeeds on the part of the Chief Justice Warren. A conspirator, moreover, would hardly choose a location for a shooting where so much depended on conditions beyond his control. The route, the speed of the cars, the moving target, the risk that the assassin would be discovered. A group of wealthy conspirators could have arranged a much more secure conditions. Critics have often been enticed by a form of intellectual pride. They light on some theory and fall in love with it. They also scoff at the Commission because it did not always answer every question with a flat decision, one way or another. Actually, the makeup of the Commission and its staff was an excellent safeguard against overcommitment to any one theory, or against the illicit transformation of probabilities into certainties. Oswald would not have been any sensible person's choice for a conspirator. He was a loner, mixed up, and of questionable reliability, and an unknown quantity to any professional intelligence service. As to charges that the Commission's report was a rush job, it emerged 3 months after the deadline originally set. But to the degree that the Commission tried to speed up its reporting, this was largely due to the pressure of irresponsible speculation already appearing, in some cases coming from the same critics who, refusing to admit their errors, are now putting out new criticisms. Such vague accusations as that more than 10 people have died mysteriously can always be explained in some more natural way. Example, the individuals concerned have for the most part died of natural causes. The Commission staff questioned 418 witnesses. The FBI interviewed far more people, conducting 25,000 interviews and re-interviews, and in such a large group a certain number of deaths are to be expected. When Penn Jones, one of the originators of the 10 mysterious deaths line, appeared on television, it emerged that 2 of the deaths on his list were from heart attacks, 1 from cancer, 1 was from a head-on collision on a bridge, and 1 occurred when a driver drifted into a bridge abutment. Happens all the time. 5. Where possible, counter speculation by encouraging reference to the Commission's report itself. Open-minded foreign readers, again, he's trying to remind you, it's just for the foreign readers, should still be impressed by the care, thoroughness, objectivity, and speed with which the Commission worked. Reviewers of other books might be encouraged to add their account to the idea that, checking back with the report itself, they found it far superior to the work of the critics. So that's the CIA playbook from 1967, and it's pretty much the same crap that they're dishing out today, 55 years later, even though now they're telling us it's all silly, nobody cares, and it doesn't matter, they're still doing it. And that's what Stephen Galbraith, if that is his real name, is doing in the Knot House.